Okay, so this is my video on the website that I created. And I want to start out with saying that this was definitely an interesting conundrum to try and get through and make everything work. It's been years since I've played with HTML and PHP and all of that jazz. So here we go. So I decided to take the route of creating my pages in PHP and HTML. And I also chose to break them up. So I have a header page and I have a footer page that separate out the information because those are the same across each one of the pages. I will tell you that this is taken a little bit from back in the day when I used to work with WordPress, because WordPress was designed very much this same way, which allowed you to modify your header information separate from the pages, and the pages were stored separately, as well as the footer information. So in my header information, I'm making a call to my CSS file that I created, and then of course the typical HTML, viewport, UTF-8, and then I'm also making a call to Cloudflare because I wanted to use Font Awesome for the icons in my footer, which you'll see a little bit later, and then also my menu information for my menu toggle, because I did also attempt to try and make this mobile friendly on the fly, which, yeah, that's all time consuming, I'm sure you know. So my footer page, I actually have my social media, which they are actually linked to my personal stuff, and you'll see that it actually works. I'll show that to you. And then my phone number and my email address, and then a copyright. So nothing too fantastic there, it's pretty standard. So let's jump over to the index page code. So on the index page, I actually have a title, a subtitle, and then I also have set up a video that loops, which I took from my actual vehicle diagnostic tool. Has a little video in the very beginning of it, and I sat here and recorded it and used it. I would never post that publicly, but for the purposes of the class, I wanted to play around and go a little bit to the extra side. So I did actually record a video, edit a video, and then used it on a loop on my homepage, kind of like a hero. And then of course I gave a little bit of information here. You can see I did some inline styling to this div because I was in a hurry and I never went back and fixed it. So you can actually see that I left it in here. And then as we come down, you can see I decided to use a flex grid, set up my columns, and later on you'll see how that works with mobile as well. I have a media break that actually stacks these guys up to make it so that it flows on an iPhone or any other mobile device. And then at the very bottom, I'm actually making a call to my footer PHP file to bring in the social media at the bottom. And each of my pages are set up exactly that way. So if you look, this is my about page, and I have my call to my header PHP and my footer PHP, and then I've got everything wrapped in a flex box so that it will actually resize on a mobile device. We're going to skip this file for now. I'll come back to it. I did have to do some configuration to my my config inc PHP because I was getting these annoying pop-ups when I was working in SQL, because of course there's some depreciated calls, and I just haven't paid attention to the new ones yet. So rather than having the messages keep popping up, I came in here and made some changes to dispense with those real quick, and then I also set up the configuration for the database. And so my footer PHP, and then here's where the magic happens. So I have a customer portal page, which is where the customer comes in and they log in. I'm using a series of variables to capture that information and then posting that out as the variable. And then if we come down here, this is the part I'm most proud of. I'm using a session to capture specific information out of my SQL query that's written here. So I'm capturing the customer ID and I'm capturing the customer's name out of that SQL query. I'm writing those to the session so that when it actually redirects the user, if the user puts in a good username and password, it'll redirect them to the appointment page. And the appointment page, I have an SQL query that runs over there that actually draws up any appointment that the customer has upcoming. And then of course my standard coding for the form that they have to fill out. So now we go to the appointment page, and here on the appointment page you can see once again I do a connection to the database, and then once I get to that, my gosh, I just drew a blank. Once I make that connection, we come down to the query, and in the query, of course, I'm again using the session ID, so I'm not hard coding anything. I'm just pulling that session information from the prior page. I did the same thing here for the welcome message, where it actually says to echo the session name section, which I'll show you in the database it is valid when it comes up. It's not hard coded, it draws it out of the database. And then when we come down here, I came up with a while statement, created my variable for the count, and then I'm using an if statement here so that I only get the date and the order number one time, but everything else will be iterated through to make sure that I pick up all of the products that's in the customer's order. And then of course it drops us out and closes the connection once it's finished. So my CSS file, yeah, if there was anything I could have done or wish I could have done better, it would have been going back and cleaning up a lot of my code. I didn't go back and clean this up, and there are things in here that I ended up not using or I abandoned because they didn't do what I wanted them to. So, you know, after doing so much research and realizing, okay, well, this isn't going to work, then I abandoned it and moved on and, you know, tried to go about it a different way. So there are things in here that probably could have been removed. There's things you'll notice that are commented out that I realized, oh, I can't do that because it would overlap another box or another grid. So yeah, I wish I could have gone back and cleaned this up, but I'm out of time. I ran this right down to the wire. Today was the last day, and I had to get everything finished and working and cleaned up as best I could, so this kind of got neglected along the wayside. You can see here I wiped this out because positioning at absolute, it didn't actually allow me to do what I wanted it to. So at any rate, yeah, instead of using something like Bootstrap or one of those, I literally sat here, researched, and tried to come up with the CSS to make it do everything that I wanted to, and I think it works pretty good. So let's go over and take a look at the page now, or the site. So I'm going to go to the home page to start us off, and this video here is a video, like I said, that I took from a device that I own that allows me to scan codes, and it also allows me to program keys and transponders and so on. Come down here and you can see that I've got a note where it explains that we charge a trip fee. It'll never be more than that if we're unable to perform the service you hired us to perform. We won't charge you another trip fee if there's a return trip involved. And then you'll also be given an option to have us return and pay only the trip fee. Not to have us return, I mean, and pay only the trip fee. So my products that I offer are transponder keys, making new ones for your vehicle, transponder key fobs, and then I also have standard blade keys. And then we offer a lockout service, a diagnostic service, so if your check engine light is on, I can check that, and this device actually allows me to actuate certain things in the car without actually going to them. And then I also have a home rekey service. And then if we scroll down here just a little bit, you can see the footer information, which is tied to that footer PHP page that I showed you earlier. And just to show you that these are functional, if I click on them, they do take me out to my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, and to my Instagram page. So they are completely functional. I just wanted you to see that they do work. And let's scroll back up here and let me show you the menu. So the menu that I created is, there's nothing special about it. It's a text menu. I don't have any drop downs because I don't have any sub pages, but I do have 4 pages. In the beginning, I started out with more and I realized that it just they weren't needed. It was kind of overkill. So I condensed everything down, put everything to what I thought was a more succinct look. So I have a home, about, contact, and customer portal. The customer portal is where all the magic happens. But before we go there, I want to show you, I did code this, or take the time to code this using Flexbox and FlexGrid so that it is mobile friendly. So the toggle that you saw earlier in my header is to set the hamburger menu, and if I click on this, it drops down a hamburger menu, so it's friendly for iPhones or other mobile devices. But you see that the video resized as we change the screen size and viewport, and each of my products now, instead of being in rows, are in a column and stacked on top of each other, so they're easy to read for somebody who is on a mobile device. And then of course my footer information is still here, it still stays absolute to the bottom. So let's open this back up and I'll show you the different pages. So this is the home page, and then we go to About, and it just gives you the basic explanation of why I wanted to do this. You can see that it came out of being frustrated after calling a mobile locksmith who told me they could do something and then they couldn't, and then in the end they still charged me even though they couldn't perform the service. So, and then I have a contact page, which is just really simple. I didn't want to spend much time on this because I knew that the database portion was going to take me a while. So I just threw together a standard mail to call, which opens up my email and adds in my email address, and then it puts service inquiry into the subject line here. And then I also have my phone number listed, which is also at the bottom in the footer, but I felt like it was something that should be on the contact us page. And then a map to the location. So for the purposes of school, I would never put this up on the internet, but for school, these are all actual functioning real locations. So then the last part, this is the part that really, really is cool. So if I put a user in here that doesn't exist in the database and a password that doesn't match, you see that the top drop down and you get an error message that lets you know that the user and password are incorrect. So if we come back down here and we actually put in a valid user and password, and we log in, it takes you to the customer appointment page, which when I showed you that earlier, uses my variables and does a second query. So I'm using the session variable to populate here and welcome the customer to the page. So it just says, "Hello Mary, we found an upcoming appointment for you." And it populates out the appointment date, which is December 25th, 2023. Merry Christmas to Mary. She's going to get a trip charge, and she's also getting a transponder key programmed. So all of this happens because of the session storing the information in the session so that I can draw the name back, and I'm also grabbing the customer ID so that I can use the customer ID as a variable in the SQL query that I use to pull back all of the data that's populated here on this page. So that is pretty much the website. It took a lot of time to figure it all out and sort it all out. And I know in the instructions somewhere it said that we had to use JavaScript to do this, but in my mind I just couldn't understand why JavaScript would come into play, or where I would use that, or how I would flex that, because I just didn't see it. Everything was accomplishable with HTML, CSS, and PHP. So I do not have JavaScript on the page. My menu is all CSS driven, along with the mobile ready menu that's all CSS driven. So I know I'll probably lose points for not using JavaScript, but I did want to be honest with you. I just really didn't see a reason to use it for what I was trying to accomplish. And I know there's a place for everything, and it just didn't seem to fit here. So at any rate, that's it for the video. So I'm going to put together my documentation and screenshots because I literally just finished this right before I did the video, and get all of this uploaded in good, bad, or indifferent. I have really enjoyed the class. I believe I've got another class with you next semester. I think I signed up for one of your classes. So I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Okay, so I apologize for that little pause there. I ended my video and realized that I did not show you the database side of the website. So if you remember during the phase where I showed you how the database was, or how the page was being populated when it goes to the appointments section, you can see I only have one valid user in here, and her name is Mary Blythe, and her customer ID is 1. And then this is the username, and this is the password that we were using. So that's the valid user, and I'm capturing in the session the first name and the customer ID so that they can be used on the customer appointment page to do the SQL operation for doing the SQL query and for importing the first name so that I can use that in the welcome message that's on the beginning of the page. And then when we get to the customer appointment page, in the orders, you can see that she has one order started. I've got 2 rows here. Customer ID is 1, so it's the same as the customer ID that's in the user. And then the appointment date is 12/25, like I said, Merry Christmas. And then it populates out the product ID, and then it gives you the description and how much the actual item costs. So all of this gets placed up into that customer appointment here. So you can see product ID, product description, standard trip charge, program transponder, and then the price. And then, like I said, I'm using the while and if statement so that I can actually get just the appointment date once and the order number once. And then it drops each of the products. It iterates through the rows for the products to give me all of the products that would have been on that customer's order. And then here you can see her name, where it's drawing up and importing that out of the session that's being saved in the web browser. So I'm going to marry these 2 videos together, and I will send both of them off to you.